I'm just curious, how did you balance, starting a family, being married, being in the NFL? How did that all
Um,
work?
we I now call it the marketplace. We used to just speak locker room, right?
Mhm.
But that group of guys that when we were all so young, you don't know it when you're 20s and maybe as old as 31 in the locker room.
Yeah.
And I was walking into the weight room after one of our practice. We had a quick meeting and then a little late going into the weight room. But Charles Mann, who was one of the larger than life figures in the game at the time, met me at the door. He's coming out of the weight room, taking the tape off his hands and his wrists and whatnot. And he's coming through double doors. And I try and sidestep him and go into the weight room, and he put his hand in my chest.
Yeah.
And he said, "Whoa, where are you going?"
Mhm.
And I thought, that's what kind of question is that? I'm trying to make Pro Bowl like you. You can't say that in that environment. You got to keep you got to keep your chest out.
Mhm.
And he said, "Danny, go home." I said, "What is he?"
Mhm.
And he pointed to the clock and he said, "Man, look at that clock." And sure enough, it's 6 o'clock. And he said, "Go home to your wife."
Yeah.
And he said, "Man, this is the time of year where our wives and our families don't get to see very much of us."
Mhm.
He said, "Man, go home." Charles Mann is telling me to go home.
Yeah.
I turned around, I went back to my locker, put my clothes on, and I went to the house.
Mhm. Wow.
We get to take pictures these days, Noel, with a lot of Copelands.
Mhm.
And I can think over and over, that moment, if he's not prepared as a believer
Mhm.
to hold me accountable as a man and say, "Hey, this is important," and he did say that.
Yeah.
He did say, "Man, this is important, but this is the time of year that our families get to see very little of us.
Mhm.
Go home."
Great advice.
So yeah, and again, when I think of that team, we won a Super Bowl.
Mhm.
I got to receive from some of the most prepared young believers I think that might have been on the planet at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, we had prayer meetings where we prayed for guys' injuries and so forth. And this was at each other's homes, Bible studies during the week. You could sit again as a mid 20-year-olds, 26 years old at the time that we got there,
Mhm.
and just listen to these guys and their wives just share the stories of how gracious God has been to them over and over.
Yeah.
And the first thing you realize again is, man, these folks are for real.
Right.
It's
right.
the guy that invited me to the first Bible study
Mhm.
is going around. I can't remember why I was in the locker room this particular day, but one of the former players is walking around the locker room
Mhm.
and he's putting these what look like leaflets into everybody's lockers.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there, and when he gets to me, he says, and this guy, Ken Caulfield, was also a former Washington Redskins safety,
Mhm.
but he says, "Copeland, this is directions to Bible study. We have Bible study each Wednesday at someone else's homes. We just kind of rotate it."
Mhm.
He said, "You need to be there and bring your family." What kind of invitation is that?
Mhm.
That's not an invitation. They just told me I need to be there and bring my family.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow. So again, it was life lived differently with a bunch of believers that were really serious about God and really serious about each other.
I've watched some old interviews and old after the Super Bowl win,
Mhm.
and it did seem so genuine and so Christ centered. The guys that were speaking and that you played with,
Mhm.
and you were on that video as well. And I remember the commentator said, this guy is the happiest guy alive right now, talking about you. But everybody was giving glory to God. I mean, the whole team. It was really, it seemed special. It seemed like what you're talking about. So, and, and just looking back, you gotta think, golly, what a great group of people, and how much it's shaped your life, because you've brought that back to our community. And we're just all so thankful that you had those people that influenced you like that, because you're doing the same here. So, and we're going to get to that. So after the Super Bowl, then you retire. You've done it. You've succeeded. You've given Megs that claim to fame. You've given that hometown, and you set out to do really what your mission was, in that mission. So where do you go next? It's like, what's next for Danny Copeland and the family? And the family's growing, and you're in Virginia at the time.
Yeah. Initially, it was more questions. What do I do with this? Because I've been so blessed by the players on the team, and being able to, again, share community with my family, young family, and other families there with the Redskins team. I had a chaplain that I grew very, very, very close to, Milton Harding. Bless my socks off. He did that for a team of guys. And it became, after the Super Bowl game, again, I spent the first 3 years trying to get into the game, trying to be recognized, all that wonderful stuff. And approaching the Super Bowl, we're playing the Buffalo Bills, who happen to be a very, very potent passing offense. And so in order to counter that, our defensive coaches come up with a slightly different scheme than we had done the entire year. They replaced the strong safety with another cornerback to try and counter these Pro Bowl receivers that, everything receivers that Buffalo had killed the league with that year. And at this point, again, I'm kind of, I won't say reduced, but I'm at a place where I've been carried, man. It's whatever we need to do, and I'll play whatever position. I'm all team at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to be all team because, again, that was what I had seen, and the value of it now was we get to play a championship, not so much because of what we were able to do on the team, but these guys have built each other up, right? And they've had each other's backs, and they've helped each other prepare. And again, I've been a part of that.
Yeah.
And now going into this game, hopefully I get to reciprocate. Mm-hmm. So I'm a wedge buster at that point. And the wedge buster is a guy that on the kickoff, hopefully we get the first kickoff. I'm in the middle of the kickoff coverage, and I get to go down, run as hard as I can, and give my team everything that I can, and slam into three guys at least 100 pounds heavier than me. Right?
Yeah.
So, but again, the psyche of the athlete is, okay, if that's my job, then I'll take them out.
Yeah. If I've got to push a car, I've got to push a car.
That's it. And these guys have done that for me the whole season.
Yeah.
I will gladly go bust a wedge for these guys. Mm-hmm. We get up to the moment of that first kickoff. And I'm sorry, we go on offense first. And then we get I think we punted to them, and they end up coming out in a different offensive set than we had
anticipated.
Anticipated. And so all of a sudden on the sideline, there is this call for regular. meaning Buffalo is going into what we consider regular, but it's not what they do. That says our starting strong safety now gets to start the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So the guy that couldn't make it into the game the first 3 years as a want to be starter gets to be a starter in the biggest game in the world.
Right.
So that was so fun, and that was one of those things when I say I had conversation with God on the sideline. You know, Buffalo wasn't supposed to do what they did.
Yeah.
Lord, you set up the whole thing. So again, fast forward, I played out the next 2 seasons, but I played those 2 seasons wondering, okay, Lord, when do I go home? Because I had experienced definitely enough lows, but I felt like I had experienced the highest height. Didn't get to do all the individual stuff that I had set out to do, but man, you gave me a championship.
Yeah.
When do I get to go back and share what you've been doing with kids in my home community?
Right.
So for 2 years, I drove up to the same stop light, and I'd question at about 7 o'clock in the morning, when do I leave? And eventually it became, when can I leave? Because I realized there came a point where I was still trying to serve the guys on the team instead of trying to serve out purpose and whatever. I'd really had enough. So we had a coaching changeover. We bottomed out. That 2 years after the Super Bowl, we bottomed out. I think we were 4-12 or something like that. If better, not much better.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting in the locker room with all of our guys had just come off a rainy field. Norv Turner had come into the Redskins from Dallas as the new head football coach, and you know, we just come off a sloppy, I'm going to say dangerous turf field that had it been a Joe Gibbs, we wouldn't have done it. There'd have been another course of action for us to get through the practice. All in all, everybody was questioning, you know, what's this new guy all about? And it seems to be making decisions that were just, you don't want to say not Gibbs, but this is not what
in
we
your
do.
Best interest.
Yes. And so I had been through that coaching change with Marty Schottenheimer, and I realized Norv Turner came in to put his thumbprint on it. It is now nothing about yesterday.
Yeah.
This is the way we go forward, and I'm the guy. So I was comfortable in that, and I really felt like I needed to be there in the transition with these veterans who, most of them had never known another coach. Gibbs had been there since 82, 83. And so all in all, it was much more about my teammates at that point than anything that we were probably going to get out of the game.
Yeah.
And so as that was happening, I'm sitting in the locker room again. I'm at my locker and I'm just thinking, okay, I really need to help settle this locker room, especially for our guys, our older guys.
Yeah.
And I started to say something to one of those veterans who was close to my locker, and I found myself, it's almost like a trance. And I felt like the Lord just said, you can go.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was like, whoa, I can. And I just told that one guy, I said, hey, Monty, I'm done.
Wow.
And he said, what are you talking about? I said, the Lord just let me know I can leave. He said, man, what are you talking about? So I'm done. I don't have to do it anymore.
Yeah.
He said, have to do what? I don't have to
No,
play
listen.
anymore. Yeah. So it was it was kind of a strange moment for everybody, but I just shared it with a few veterans, and then went upstairs to the office and told the general manager the same thing. And he looked at me and he said, what do you mean you don't have to do it anymore? I said, Charlie, the last 2 years I haven't played this for myself. I've played more for teammates and more for the organization. And I said, I don't have to do it. I can go home. And yeah, and I think everybody that knew me knew I was burning to at some point to get back to the house.
Yeah.
You know, I left here hoping that it would be Eastern Kentucky, do great things, be a genius first rounder into the National Football League, make a bunch of money, come back home, and again sow whatever seed that we could, probably much more so academically than anything, but through the course, the Lord showed the two of us, my wife and myself, some needs, and so we were not so much her. We had to sell her on the reality of I'm not going to Meigs to become the mayor. So we're going. God has kids there that I've always felt like He wants me to return and be able to do life with. So that's what we were able to do.
So that's where Koji began.
Yes.
And explain Koji and what it means, what it stands for, and what its purpose is, really.
We prayed. Meaning my wife, my best friend on the team there was Stephen Hobbs, who was an outstanding receiver, special teamer, just really fun guy. From a similar setup over in Mississippi. His hometown, Mendenhall, may be at the time 7,500 or so, a little bit larger than Meigs, but there were a couple of neighboring towns there. His hometown, and then McGee, Mississippi, where his high school was. He invited me to go down to his hometown to help host a football camp, and I thought, man, that'd be great. Eventually, that's what I want to do. So we did it. We ended up attending several football camps, and this was late in the career for me. He's the same age, and but we went to several football camps up in the DC area, over into Pennsylvania, and it was just a great time working with kids that were kind of hungry for the game. Got to participate with other Washington Redskins players, and at some point we had conversation after seeing some guests, if you will, that came into the environment. They were guest coaches. They were not professional guys, but they were professional coaches. The two of us felt like they didn't display good character before the kids, and we talked about it, and we just in a moment ended up saying to each other, we get opportunity to do this after we're done. We're going to trust God that He wants us to be able to bless these kids. And so, a lot of the language and whatnot coming from or through those coaches in earshots of the kids, and just things that we, again, would look at as young, but as men, and say, that's inappropriate for these guys. So in that, we made a commitment to each other, and at some point let our wives know this is what we want to do. And so eventually we...
A new type of leadership.
Yes. And Stephen's desires were to do the same thing post-career. He wanted to return to his hometown and help young people in McGee, Mendenhall area. So when we prayed, we just asked the Lord to give us a name that would help us stay the course, that would help us stay focused when we work with kids. And initially, as we prayed, we just, as consensus, children of God. These are God's children that we will get opportunity to work with. And we're going to believe for that. And somewhere in there, not very long afterwards, we became Children of God International. So, hey, that's got something, man. And so we held on to that. With I think the first year, maybe we were here and working with kids. Um, I was with a 700 club group, doing some traveling with the 700 club, and a gentleman introduced me to Ephesians 1, 18 through 21, which speaks of our inheritance in the Lord that's been displayed only once, and that was when the Father raised his Son from the grave, seated him in heavenly places. And I thought, wow, that's what we want to share with our kids.
Yeah.
So we changed it to children of godly inheritance. And so, and that is to as much identify mission as it is to identify, that's our belief for ourselves and every person that we get opportunity to work with.
Helps you stay the course.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely. And from that, from COJAB, champions certifications was born. And how did that evolve?
Another of those moments where we get to work with some awesome people, right? And in the flow of what we get to do as trainers, there's some identities given in our profession, if you will. There's certain groups, there's certain certification programs, labels, in the flow of what we do. There are things posited in the business, if you will, that are given to validate, if you will. And so I had a conversation with a doctor friend of mine, and I told him at one point, we developed this certification program, and I wanted to get it accredited. And he looked at me and he said, "Why do you want to get it accredited?" He said, "You do what you do, and you guys are good at it."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, accreditation is needed because there's just been a big push towards accreditation. I want people to know." And he said, "I just said you're good at what you do. That's what you need to be okay with letting people know." And I thought, okay, that really didn't satisfy what I felt like need in an industry to be able to say, okay, we've third party saying we can do what we do. Yes.
Yeah.
And we, right off the bat, I tried to do the accreditation, take us through that process myself, and found myself in just with busy work schedule, not being able to do it.
Yeah.
But we were able to serve clients in the interim, in the midst of trying to get that whole thing satisfied. We were able to service clients, and we had people continually come and ask about being certified through our program.
Yeah.
And I would think, okay, our guys go beyond what most people do in this profession. They go beyond. They're real champions in their efforts to bless people. And I thought, that's what I want to let people know.
Yeah.
I want to let people know that we are committed to going, next level, going beyond, extra mile, whatever it is. And I said, but wait a minute. The guys that work here, let me see, first guy that ever came to work with me is a high school championship football player.
Yeah.
And then I started to just take a look at our surroundings. Wait a minute, this one is doing this. And our motorcycle guys is a professional. I was told at one point, one of the best motorcyclists on the planet,
Yeah.
and Gavin Grayson.
Sure.
And so I just began to look at, okay, our surroundings here say champion. Juliet Campbell, who took over a lot of the writing and educational duties from me, conference champion tennis player, on the team with Danielle, our oldest daughter, conference champion tennis player. And I thought, whoa. And that's what we want to help produce.
Sure.
Everybody won't walk off with the ring or hoist the trophy, but we want our guys to understand if we're training for championship character, right? And we have championship habits at some point, and it might be that thing of being in a marriage where you can really, really carry yourself as a championship spouse, a champion partner. It's really not just about what happens in and through the flow of training or athletics. That's there. That's a given. We've Adam Choice shows up with 2 or 3 national championship football rings. So
you're saying there's a lot of ways to define champion.
Yes, absolutely. The blessing, the benefit of having an Adam Choice show up was, wow, this guy fits so much with this whole champion offering that we now again want to be able to give the world an opportunity to really experience what we mean when we say certified champion trainer.
Right, definitely. Well, I think I've read where you have helped so many student athletes that now I don't even know if there's a total, but it's over $1 million in scholarships. So you're developing, these champions everywhere, walking out of the gym, which is special. But that's not all you're doing. You and your family, you use this venue, this avenue to also minister. It's a ministering tool. So when you're thinking champion, like you said, it's not all about the ring. It's about the character you're building and the integrity that you're instilling. And that's what's so special to me about Coach For sure. Definitely.
I had conversation with Coach Larry Green when we first moved back, and it was such a blessed meeting to be back in his presence the first time, and I can just remember sharing with him, I just want to be able to teach the way that I was taught. And maybe not on, in the flow of a high school program. Didn't know at that time. Got to go out and spend a little bit of time with the Brookwood program. 4 years, I think it was, as track coach. Got to participate in girls basketball. And those were really fun times, Noel. But in the midst of it, I am now a parent. And I get to see firsthand from the other side, a little bit of what my parents obviously were experiencing, but all of a sudden I have to try and balance family life again with now the duty call, right? I was so rewarded by the kids at Brookwood and their hunger to learn. That was a very, very easy 4 years to actually go and do that. But at the same time, I learned that my kids were needing the same thing. My wife actually was needing the same encouragement, applause, and whatever it was that I would be able to give to the kids on the track. Right? So, challenge for me really early on was not so much how do I balance, but my family really shouldn't be getting the scraps of the good stuff, right? Found myself coming from the gym one evening. It's 9 o'clock. This was the training gym. It's 9 o'clock. And up until that point, I felt like I'm building this business, I'm building this thing, and folks are gaining, they're growing,
Interest,
and
yeah.
yeah, and again, we're getting those accolades.
Yeah, reward.
It's 9 o'clock.
Yeah. You heard that voice again. Go home.
Yes.
Go home.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I was able to really look. I'm looking at the clock in the truck, and I'm thinking, this is all wrong.
Yeah.
This is all wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I committed at that point. I can't do it like this again. Was offered an opportunity to help with Brookwood football, and it was time-wise pretty demanding.
Right.
But all of a sudden, here we go, first Friday night. It doesn't end. After the game, we have a meeting. Yeah. And I'm thinking, okay, I can't, man. From that point, I started looking towards the end of the season. I can give everything up to a certain point.
Right.
And I'm enjoying the teenagers, I'm enjoying the kids that I'm getting to work with, enjoying the coaches that I'm getting to work with. But I have to first be able to give at home. I'm going to get home at 11 o'clock tonight. That was my thoughts after that first game. I'm going to get home at 11 o'clock. My family has not seen me.
Danny, I'm telling you, now hearing all of your professional background, and I know 5 of the 6 children that you and Joanne have, and your claim to fame would not be that Super Bowl ring. You have put everything into those kids to become such amazing people, and they are so God-loving, and they are contributors, and they are special.
They got a good mom.
In my mind, I'm telling you, y'all have done it. I mean, so you've given everything to them, and it shows. It really shows. You see the fruits of your labor. Reward. All of them are amazing. So
we're spoiled, Noel.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
God has been very, very, very gracious.
Yes, definitely. Well, I sure appreciate you sitting down with me today and going down memory lane, hearing all these amazing stories that have really shaped you. But I know there's exciting things in the future for you all. I know that you've got lots planned for your next seasons, and for your family and for your business and for champion certifications. But
yes.
I know that if people want to learn more, they can go to championcertifications.com. That's championcertifications.com again. And thank you so much for sitting down with me. This has been so great and fun. I love learning more about you.
Listen, thank you. I'm getting to revisit
a lot of neat memories.
Yeah, fun stuff.
Yeah. Real quick, I'm gonna say play for, and I'm gonna give you 2 names, and you name one. Okay. Play for Saban or Smart.
Wow, Saban.
Okay. Play with Brady or Mahomes.
Mahomes.
Okay. Coach like Dabo or Lincoln Riley.
Dabo.
There you go.